You mentioned that everybody, can be an entrepreneur. Do you really think that's true? Do you think that there's a certain amount of nature or nurture? Do you have to have a certain something to do this?
Well, so it's interesting. You raised the term uncertainty as opposed to risk. And when most people think about entrepreneurship, they think about risk, taking risks, and the press to some degree has kind of glorified the entrepreneur as the risk taker. But there's a lot of decades now of research that entrepreneurs are not any more inclined to take risks than any of the rest of us. What they are more comfortable with or become more comfortable with over time is uncertainty. And that's good for people like us who try to teach entrepreneurship or train entrepreneurs because there are tools that you can deliver that help people better understand how to navigate uncertainty. And that's really my mission in teaching entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, is to help the students, the colleagues, the entrepreneurs I'm working with understand how to navigate that uncertainty so that when they're confronted with an uncertain situation, that kind of fight or flight part of the brain doesn't kick in quite as strongly and drive out the rational piece so they kind of run away screaming. So I think there is the potential entrepreneur in all of us, but I think there's a very much of a continuum from those folks that are very tolerant of uncertainty and willing to kind of jump in, and those that need to be either coached or armed with tools so that they can do so.
Do you think that healthcare professionals are any better or worse at navigating uncertainty?
Unfortunately, I would say on average worse. I think the training, but also the context. If you're a software developer and trying to create an app, you can make a lot of mistakes and nobody's going to die. Healthcare training is all about kind of mitigating risks and taking tests and all the appropriate steps to make sure that you're treating the patient in the right way. And I think that kind of socializes a desire to have a lot more knowledge before taking a specific action, as opposed to experimentation to try and get to an end. So I think it does make it more difficult. Now, the flip side is, as you can imagine, there's a ton of opportunity in healthcare space to be entrepreneurial. And most folks that are trained as physicians, particularly, but healthcare providers generally, are very sharp and observant. And those are characteristics that I think enable them to be very good at entrepreneurship.
So you mentioned observation as one of the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and competencies of entrepreneurs. Can you mention others?
Yes. So it's interesting. There's a set of there's a book called The Innovator's IQ and a Harvard Business Review article related to that. Clay Christensen is one of the authors on that. And they look at the characteristics of successful innovators and contrast delivery skills. And those are things that are more analytical, execution oriented. And the set of discovery skills, which are associated with successful innovators, including entrepreneurs, are things like observation, questioning. So the ability to ask the right questions and be good listeners, the ability to experiment and experiment in a rational and systematic way, as opposed to random experimentation. And then finally, networking is one of the important skills as well. In terms of building that network and leveraging that network, and that's part of what SoPE is all about, right? It's connecting people with a passion for innovation in healthcare and building that network so that if you're trying to move an idea forward, you have people to rely on, people to observe, people to question, and not necessarily people to experiment on, but at least people to help you craft experiments to be more successful.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe a follow-up book came out of that, which is called The Innovator's DNA. If listeners are interested in a deeper dive into this, it describes the competencies and sort of these 5 core skills that, according to the research, were demonstrated.